There's been a mistake!
The voice cuts through the first-class cabin like broken glass. I specifically requested privacy seating. Bradford Montgomery stands in the aisle of Meridian Airways Flight 847, his Louis Vuitton briefcase gripped like a weapon. He stares at seat 1A with the kind of disgust usually reserved for stepping in something unpleasant. In 1A sits Zara Williams, 29 years old, wearing Nike joggers and an oversized Stanford hoodie. Her dark hair is pulled back in a simple ponytail. No jewelry except small gold studs. She looks up from her iPad Pro, where spreadsheets full of numbers dance across the screen. Acquisition documents, revenue projections, the kind of data that reshapes industries. Brad points at her like she's contamination. "This won't work." Carmen Rodriguez hurries over from the galley. 8 years flying for Meridian Airways. Single mother of twin boys. She needs this job like she needs air. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Montgomery. You're in 1B right here." She gestures to the plush leather seat beside Zara. "I know where my seat is." Brad's voice carries across the cabin. Other passengers look up. "My problem is with the arrangement." Zara doesn't react. Her fingers continue scrolling through fuel cost analysis, route efficiency reports, the kind of details that matter when you're about to own an airline. Carmen checks her tablet. "Sir, the cabin is completely full today. Seat 1A was booked weeks ago." "Booked by whom?" Brad drops his briefcase into the overhead bin with unnecessary force. The plastic rattles. Did she pay full fare, or is this some employee upgrade situation? The question hangs in the air like smoke. In seat 2A, Elena Vasquez adjusts her reading glasses. 63 years old, retired teacher, flying to her daughter's wedding in Los Angeles. She has 150,000 TikTok followers who know her for one thing, calling out injustice when she sees it. Her phone is already in her hand. David Miller sits in 2C, corporate attorney, employment law specialist. He recognizes the tension building, the legal implications. His notebook is open pen moving across the page. Carmen's smile falters. "I don't have access to payment methods, sir. All I can confirm is that both seats are valid reservations. That's not what I asked." Brad leans closer to Carmen. Too close. His cologne overwhelms the space between them. "Look, I spend $80,000 a year with this airline. I know Mitchell Rodriguez personally. We golf together. I need to work on sensitive documents during this flight, and I cannot have someone looking over my shoulder." He gestures at Zara without looking at her directly. Like she's furniture. Like she's not there. Especially someone who clearly doesn't understand first-class etiquette. Zara places her iPad on the tray table. The sound is soft, but definitive. She turns her head slightly. Not fully toward Brad, but enough to show she's listening. "Has the passenger done something inappropriate?" Carmen asks. Her voice is professional, but strain shows at the edges. It's the principal Brad snaps. "People like her get up here through employee friends and family programs, lottery winners, social media contests. They get drunk on free champagne. They get loud. They take pictures of everything. I need focus, not distractions." Elena Vasquez opens her phone's camera app. Her finger hovers over the record button. David Miller stops writing, looks up. This is crossing lines. "Sir, she hasn't made any noise," Carmen says. She's been reading quietly for 20 minutes. It's not about noise. Brad finally sits in 1B but doesn't buckle his seatbelt. It's about appropriateness. This is a workspace for professionals. Look at how she's dressed. Zara's hoodie is cashmere. Her joggers cost more than most people's car payments. But Brad sees what he wants to see. "Some people don't belong in certain spaces," Brad continues. "It's not personal. It's just reality." Carmen's jaw tightens. She thinks about her boys. About the private school tuition she works double shifts to afford. About the pilot's license she's studying for. About how much she needs this job. Mr. Montgomery, I understand you want privacy, but I cannot ask a passenger with a valid ticket to move. Brad stands up again. He's 6'2". In the narrow aisle, he looms over Carmen. Then call the captain. Let's verify the passenger manifest. Let's make sure everything is legitimate. From the cockpit, Captain Marcus Thompson has been listening through the intercom system. 20 years of flying experience, military background. He's heard this tone before. He knows where this is heading. Zara reaches for her phone. Types a quick text, Phase 1 initiated. Stand by for Phase 2. 3 blocks away in a glass tower overlooking Manhattan, her legal team receives the message. They've been waiting for this moment for 6 months. Ever since Zara started the acquisition process. Ever since she decided that Meridian Airways needed new ownership. New leadership. New values. Carmen's hands shake slightly. Sir, I can call the captain, but I need you to lower your voice. You're disturbing other passengers. Don't tell me how to speak. Brad's volume increases instead of decreases. I spend more money with this airline than most people make in a year. My needs should be prioritized. Elena Vasquez taps the record button. Her phone camera focuses on Brad's face. She whispers to her followers, "Y'all, we've got a situation in first class. This is going live. The passenger hasn't violated any airline policies." Carmen continues. She's been completely respectful. Respectful. Brad laughs, but there's no humor in it. Is it respectful to take up space you can't afford? To pretend you belong somewhere you don't? Zara finally turns fully toward Brad. Her eyes are calm. Too calm. The kind of quiet that makes smart people nervous. Is there a problem with my seating, sir? Her voice is quiet. Controlled. The kind of quiet that makes smart people nervous. Brad looks at her for the first time. Really looks. He sees the hoodie, the casual clothes, the youth. He sees what his prejudice wants him to see. The problem, he says, enunciating every word, is that this is a professional environment. And some people don't understand the standards expected here. What standards are those, Zara asks. Appropriate attire, professional demeanor, the ability to conduct business without disruption. Elena's live stream viewer count hits 5,000. Comments flood in. Is this man really doing this? Someone please get his name. This is 2024, not 1954. David Miller leans forward. Sir, I'm an attorney specializing in employment and civil rights law. I need to advise you that your comments are being recorded and could constitute discrimination. Brad whips around. Mind your own business, counselor. This is between me and the flight crew. Actually, David says when discrimination happens in public, it becomes everyone's business. Carmen looks toward the cockpit. Captain Thompson appears in the doorway. He's a black man in his 40s, military posture, command presence. He's been flying commercial for 2 decades. He's seen this before. Gentlemen, ladies, Captain Thompson says. Is there an issue I need to address? Brad straightens. Authority figures usually validate his complaints, usually side with the paying customer, usually understand that hierarchy matters. Captain, I need this passenger moved to economy. I paid full fare for privacy, and this situation is unacceptable. Captain Thompson looks at Zara. She nods politely. Good evening, Captain. Good evening, ma'am. Are you experiencing any problems? None at all, sir. Captain Thompson turns back to Brad. Sir, what specifically has this passenger done to violate airline policy? It's not what she's done. It's what she represents. The words hang in the air like a confession. Elena's viewer count hits 10,000. The comments become a waterfall. Did he just say what I think he said? Someone get his name and company. This man just confessed to discrimination on live video. Carmen's radio crackles. Ground control needs to know if there's a delay. The plane is scheduled to push back in 10 minutes. Mr. Montgomery, Captain Thompson says I need you to clarify your statement. What does this passenger represent that concerns you? Brad realizes he's standing in a minefield of his own making. Every word could explode in his face. But his pride won't let him back down. His sense of entitlement pushes him forward. Look, Captain, you understand business. You understand that certain environments require certain standards. I shouldn't have to explain why she doesn't fit in this cabin. The cabin falls silent. Elena's phone captures it all. 10,000 people hear a white businessman tell a black captain that a black passenger doesn't belong in first class. David Miller writes furiously in his notebook. Legal gold. Textbook discrimination, witnessed by dozens, recorded by thousands. Zara remains perfectly still, but something shifts in her posture. A straightening. A preparation. Mr. Montgomery. Captain Thompson says, "Are you suggesting that this passenger's race is relevant to her seating assignment?" "I'm suggesting that some people don't understand the etiquette of premium cabins. They get loud, they take selfies, they act like they've never seen free alcohol before." Each word is another nail in his coffin. "She's been completely silent," Carmen interjects, more quiet than most first-class passengers. For now, Brad snorts. "But you know how these people get." Elena gasps audibly. Her followers explode with outrage. The hashtag Meridian Airways discrimination starts trending. Zara checks her phone. Another message arrives from her legal team. "Ready on your signal." She types back, "Not yet. Let him keep talking." Captain Thompson's jaw tightens. 20 years of professionalism war with 20 years of experiencing exactly this kind of prejudice. "Sir, I need you to be very specific. What behavior are you concerned about?" Brad senses the trap, but can't stop himself from walking into it. "I'm concerned about disruption, about inappropriate behavior, about people who don't know how to act in professional settings. And you believe this passenger will exhibit these behaviors because I've seen it before. People get upgraded, they think it's party time. They lose all sense of decorum." Zara stands slowly, gracefully. She's 5'6" but carries herself like she's 10 feet tall. "Mr. Montgomery," she says, her voice carrying clearly across the cabin, "you've made several assumptions about me, about my character, my background, my behavior. You've done this based solely on my appearance." Brad turns fully toward her. They're eye to eye now. He has 6 inches and 50 pounds on her, but somehow she seems to tower over him. "You want to know if I belong here?" Zara continues. "If I understand first-class etiquette? If I can afford this seat?" Elena's live stream hits 15,000 viewers. The comments become a blur of support and outrage. "Those are fair questions," Zara says. "Let me answer them." She reaches into her bag. A soft leather satchel that cost more than Brad's shoes. Her movements are deliberate, measured. Brad watches nervously. "I don't need a lecture about—" "You need to stop talking!" Zara interrupts. Her voice doesn't rise, but it cuts through his words like a blade through paper. Captain Thompson steps closer. He senses something shifting. The power dynamic in the cabin is about to change. Carmen holds her breath. Elena's followers hit 20,000. David Miller's pen hovers over his notebook, and Zara Williams pulls out a single document that will change everything. The document in Zara's hands isn't what anyone expects. It's not an ID or a credit card or a boarding pass. It's letterhead. Corporate letterhead with logos and signatures and numbers that matter. But before she reveals it, before she destroys Bradford Montgomery's world, there's a story. There's always a story behind moments like this, behind quiet strength in the face of hatred, behind the calm that comes from knowing who you are and what you're capable of. Zara Williams learned about dignity the hard way. At 16, She was with her grandmother Ruth Williams at Chez Laurent in Atlanta, a fancy French restaurant where her grandmother wanted to celebrate Zara's acceptance to Stanford. Ruth had saved for months for this dinner. She wore her best dress, the navy blue one she saved for church and special occasions. Zara wore the only dress clothes she owned. The hostess looked them up and down, checked her reservation book twice, whispered to the manager. "I'm sorry," the manager said with a smile that wasn't sorry at all. "We're completely booked tonight." Behind him, empty tables stretched across the dining room like accusations. Ruth Williams had been a teacher for 40 years. She'd raised 5 children alone after her husband died young. She'd faced prejudice with grace and determination her entire life. But that night, standing in the doorway of that restaurant, Zara saw something break in her grandmother's eyes. They walked to McDonald's instead, sat under fluorescent lights and ate hamburgers while Ruth talked about dreams and dignity and never letting anyone make you feel small. "Baby girl," Ruth said, holding Zara's hands across the plastic table. "There are 2 ways to handle people who think you don't belong. You can fight them, or you can own the building. Fighting makes you tired. Owning makes you powerful." Ruth Williams died 3 years later. Zara was a sophomore at Stanford studying business with a focus that scared her professors. They'd never seen someone so young with such clear vision, such hunger. By 22, Zara had her MBA and a plan. She started Vanguard Enterprises with a $50,000 loan and a promise to her grandmother's memory she would never be powerless again. Vanguard specialized in acquisitions, not hostile takeovers for profit, but what Zara called interventions. Companies with good bones but bad leadership. Organizations that had lost their way, forgotten their values, prioritized profit over people. Zara bought them, fixed them, transformed them. Her first acquisition was a small hotel chain that had been discriminating against minority guests. Zara bought it for $8 million, fired the management team, retrained the staff, and turned it into the most successful boutique hotel group in the Southeast. Her second was a restaurant company, whose franchises had been automatically excluding black customers. Zara paid $35 million, restructured the entire organization, and watched revenues increase by 200% within 18 months. By 29, Vanguard Enterprises controlled a portfolio worth $3 billion. Hotels, restaurants, transportation companies, retail chains, all previously discriminatory, all now thriving under new leadership. But airlines were different. Airlines were the final frontier. Meridian Airways had been on Zara's radar for 2 years. Founded in 1987 as a small regional carrier, it had grown into a mid-sized player in the competitive aviation market. But growth brought problems. Complaints about discriminatory treatment had been piling up for years. Black passengers removed from flights for suspicious behavior. Minorities automatically downgraded due to computer errors. Staff who turned blind eyes to racist passengers who demanded seat changes. The complaints were buried in legal settlements and non-disclosure agreements. But Zara's research team was thorough. They found patterns, documentation, evidence of institutional bias that went from the ground crew to the C-suite. 6 months ago, Zara had approached Meridian's board of directors with an acquisition offer, $847 million for full ownership. The board was desperate. Revenue was down. Competition was fierce. Bankruptcy loomed. But the deal came with conditions. Complete operational control, full authority to restructure, the power to transform the company's culture from top to bottom. The board agreed. The paperwork was signed yesterday. Zara Williams became the owner of Meridian Airways at 3:47 p.m. Eastern Time. Flight 847 was her first time flying on her own airline. She'd booked seat 1A specifically. She wanted to experience the service as a customer. She wanted to see if change was needed. Bradford Montgomery was giving her a masterclass in exactly what needed to change. Brad himself was a case study in entitlement gone wrong. Montgomery Capital Partners had made him wealthy by destroying companies from within. His specialty was buying struggling businesses, stripping their assets, laying off workers, and selling the remains for parts. He'd made his fortune on other people's misery. Factory closures that devastated small towns. Mass layoffs that broke families. Pension fund raids that stole retirements from workers who'd given their lives to companies he gutted for profit. His personal life reflected his professional ethics. His wife Sarah had filed for divorce 6 months ago after finding evidence of multiple affairs. His children Bradford Jr. and Madison hadn't spoken to him since Christmas. They were embarrassed by his reputation, ashamed of his behavior, tired of explaining their father's actions to their friends. Brad compensated for his loneliness with aggression. He dominated every room he entered, bullied every service worker he encountered, demanded respect he'd never earned. He spent $80,000 a year on airline tickets because flying made him feel important. First class was his kingdom. Other passengers, his subjects, flight crews, his servants. Brad genuinely believed that his money gave him the right to dictate who belonged where. In his world, hierarchy was natural, discrimination was logical, and people like Zara Williams were intruders who needed to be put in their place. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Carmen Rodriguez watched the confrontation develop with growing dread. She'd seen this before. Rich passengers who thought their status gave them veto power over other people's right to exist in shared spaces. Carmen was 34, a single mother working double shifts to give her twin boys every opportunity she'd never had. Miguel and Diego were 8 years old, brilliant and ambitious, already talking about becoming pilots like their mum dreamed of being. Carmen had been studying for her pilot's license for 3 years. Ground school at night after the boys went to bed. Flight training on her days off while her mother watched the kids. She was 6 months away from getting her commercial license. But first, she needed to keep her job. Flight attendants who upset high-value customers didn't last long at airlines. Carmen had seen colleagues fired for much less than what Brad was demanding. Her cousin Mitchell Rodriguez was VP of Customer Relations at Meridian. Family connections had helped her get hired, but they wouldn't protect her if she mishandled a situation with a Diamond Medallion member who claimed to know executives personally. Carmen's internal conflict was tearing her apart. Every instinct told her to protect Zara from Brad's harassment. Every survival instinct told her to prioritize her own job security. She thought about her boys' tuition payments, about her pilot training, about the life she was building from nothing. But she also thought about dignity, about standing up for what's right, about the kind of mother she wanted Miguel and Diego to remember. Elena Vasquez had no such conflicts. At 63, she'd survived too much to stay silent when evil happened in front of her. Elena had taught middle school in East Los Angeles for 40 years. She'd seen bullying in every form, from playground taunts to institutional discrimination. She'd learned that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph was for good people to do nothing. Her TikTok following started accidentally. She'd posted a video calling out a restaurant manager who'd tried to charge her family extra because they were speaking Spanish. The video went viral. Suddenly, Elena Vasquez was the internet's favorite grandmother, known for her gentle but devastating takedowns of bigots and bullies. She had 150,000 followers who loved her for her wisdom, her courage, and her refusal to let injustice go unchallenged. They called her Abuela Elena, and they trusted her to speak truth to power. Elena knew exactly what was happening in Seat 1B. She'd seen it 1,000 times in 1,000 different forms. She wasn't going to let it happen without consequences. Her phone was recording before Brad finished his first sentence. Her followers were watching live as a wealthy white man tried to remove a young black woman from first class for the crime of existing. David Miller was documenting everything for different reasons. As an employment attorney specializing in civil rights law, he recognized a textbook discrimination case developing in real time. David had spent 15 years fighting workplace discrimination. He'd won settlements for employees who'd been passed over for promotion because of their race. He'd secured compensation for workers who'd been fired for reporting bias. He'd made a career of holding powerful people accountable for their prejudices. But David had a confession: he'd never been the guy who spoke up in the moment. He documented, he investigated, he built cases after the fact. He was the legal system's cleanup crew, not its first responder. Watching Brad Montgomery berate Zara Williams for being black in first class, David felt something shift inside him. Maybe it was time to be the person who spoke up instead of the person who cleaned up. Captain Marcus Thompson had been listening to the confrontation through the intercom system with growing concern. 20 years of flying experience had taught him to recognize dangerous situations before they exploded. Marcus had seen discrimination in aviation from every angle. As a young black pilot in the early 2000s, he'd been questioned by passengers who couldn't believe someone who looked like him could fly a plane. He'd been reported to security for suspicious behavior while in uniform. He'd been passed over for promotion, despite perfect performance reviews. But Marcus had also seen progress. Slowly, painfully, the industry had become more diverse, more inclusive, more professional. He'd thought those days were mostly behind them. Bradford Montgomery was proving him wrong. Marcus knew he needed to defuse this situation before it escalated further. But he also knew that passengers like Brad rarely backed down when challenged by authority figures they didn't respect. Sometimes the only solution was to let them reveal their true nature completely, then deal with the consequences. In the Meridian Airways headquarters in downtown Atlanta, CEO Victoria Hammond was having the worst day of her professional life. Victoria had run Meridian for 8 years, turning a struggling regional carrier into a competitive national airline. She'd focused on customer service, employee satisfaction, and operational excellence. Under her leadership, Meridian had won awards for innovation and efficiency. But the airline was hemorrhaging money. Budget carriers had undercut their prices. Major airlines had squeezed them out of prime routes, and fuel costs had skyrocketed. The board had been pressuring Victoria to sell for months. When Vanguard Enterprises had approached with an acquisition offer, Victoria had mixed feelings. She was proud of what she'd built at Meridian, but she also recognized reality. The company needed new ownership to survive. Zara Williams had impressed her during negotiations. Young but brilliant, ambitious but ethical, wealthy but humble. If Meridian had to be sold, Victoria was glad it was going to someone who understood the value of treating people with dignity. That dignity was being tested right now in Seat 1B of Flight 8427. Victoria's phone was buzzing with notifications. Social media alerts. Her PR team was flagging a developing crisis involving a passenger confrontation that was being live-streamed to thousands of viewers. She was about to discover that her former airline's first day under new ownership would be defined by exactly the kind of discrimination that Zara Williams had bought the company to eliminate. The irony was perfect. The justice would be swift. But first, Bradford Montgomery needed to finish destroying himself with his own words. In Seat 1A, Zara Williams held the document that would change everything, her acquisition agreement. Signed, sealed, and about to be delivered. But timing mattered. Justice required the right moment, the perfect setup, the complete revelation of character. Brad was still talking, still digging, still giving her exactly what she needed to make her point. Zara looked at Captain Thompson, at Carmen, at Elena with her phone recording, at David with his notebook ready. She thought about her grandmother Ruth, about dignity earned and respect demanded, about power used properly and justice served completely. Then she placed the document on Brad's tray table and spoke the words that would end his career and begin the transformation of an airline. Actually, Mr. Montgomery, let me clear up the confusion about whether I belong here. The document sits on Brad's tray table like a bomb waiting to explode, but he doesn't look at it yet. He's too busy being right, too busy proving his point, too busy digging his own grave with words. Confusion. Brad laughs, but it's not humor. It's the sound of a man who thinks he's winning an argument. He's actually losing catastrophically. There's no confusion here. This is simple. Some people belong in first class, others don't. It's about standards. Zara nods slowly. Standards? Tell me more about these standards. Elena's livestream viewer count hits 25,000. The comments are a river of outrage and support. Somebody please tell me someone is getting this man's information. Drag him, sis. This is why I don't fly. Get his name. Get his company. Carmen stands frozen between two worlds. The professional requirement to keep passengers happy, and the human requirement to protect someone from harassment. Her radio crackles with ground control asking about departure delays, standards of dress. Brad continues gesturing at Zara's Stanford hoodie. Standards of behavior, standards of understanding what first class represents. And what does it represent? Zara asks. Excellence, professionalism, people who've earned their place through hard work and success. David Miller looks up from his legal notepad. Sir, are you suggesting that this passenger hasn't worked hard or achieved success? I'm suggesting, Brad says, turning toward David with irritation that some people get upgraded through programs they didn't pay for. Employee benefits, diversity initiatives, social media contests. They end up in seats they can't actually afford. Captain Thompson steps closer to the conversation. His presence shifts the energy in the cabin. 20 years of military training and flight experience have taught him when to intervene. Mr. Montgomery, Captain Thompson says you're making assumptions about this passenger's ticket without any evidence. Evidence, Brad gestures broadly at Zara. Look at her. Does she look like someone who drops $8,000 on a cross-country first-class seat? The question hangs in the air like smoke from a fire that's about to become an inferno. Elena whispers to her phone to her followers. Y'all, this man just said what we all knew he was thinking. He thinks black people can't afford first class. Her viewer count hits 30,000. Zara remains perfectly calm. But something changes in her posture, a subtle straightening, a preparation for what's coming. You want to know if I can afford this seat, Zara says. It's not a question. I want to know if you paid for it. Brad replies. Full fare. Not miles, not an upgrade, not some charity program. Carmen's hands tremble slightly. She's watching a passenger being openly discriminated against, and airline policy requires her to protect all passengers from harassment. But Brad's threats about knowing executives paralyze her with fear. Mr. Montgomery, she tries one more time. The passenger has done nothing inappropriate. She's been completely respectful and quiet. Respectful. Brad's voice rises. Is it respectful to take advantage of programs meant to help people then act entitled to spaces you didn't earn? What programs? Zara asks quietly. Diversity upgrades, employee family benefits, affirmative action seating policies. Each phrase is a reveal of his worldview, a window into assumptions that have probably guided his entire life. Elena's followers are losing their minds in the comments. Affirmative action seating policies. This man really said that with his whole chest. Someone please find this man's job. Boycott this airline. David Miller stops writing. Looks directly at Brad. Sir, I need to inform you that you're currently engaging in what could legally be defined as discriminatory harassment. Your comments are being recorded and witnessed by multiple passengers. My comments are observations. Brad snaps. I'm not harassing anyone. I'm pointing out that certain people abuse benefits they didn't earn to access spaces they can't afford. Certain people, Captain Thompson's voice carries the weight of authority and barely controlled anger. What do you mean by certain people, Mr. Montgomery? The cabin falls silent except for the ambient noise of the aircraft's systems. Everyone holds their breath. Brad realizes he's standing on the edge of a cliff, but his pride won't let him step back. I mean people who use race-based programs to get advantages they wouldn't qualify for otherwise. Elena gasps audibly. Oh my God, he actually said it. Her live stream explodes. Viewer count hits 35,000. Shares multiply exponentially. The hashtag Bradford Montgomery starts trending alongside Meridian Airways racism. Zara finally picks up the document from Brad's tray table. The movement is smooth, deliberate, theatrical. She holds it so the letterhead faces toward the cabin. Mr. Montgomery, you've made several very specific claims about me, Zara says. Her voice carries clearly to every corner of first class. You've said I don't belong here. You've said I can't afford this seat. You've said I'm using programs I didn't earn to access spaces I don't deserve. Brad nods vigorously. Exactly. And I spend $80,000 a year with this airline. My comfort should be prioritized over charity cases. Carmen closes her eyes. This is the end of her career. There's no way to come back from letting a passenger be called a charity case without intervening. But before she can speak, Zara continues. You want proof that I belong here, Zara says. Proof that I can afford this seat. Proof that I earned my place. She holds up the document. The Meridian Airways logo is visible at the top. Official letterhead, signatures, legal language in dense paragraphs. This should clear up any confusion about my qualifications to be in this cabin. Brad squints at the document. The letterhead registers first. Then the title line, Acquisition Agreement, Final Execution. His face changes. Confusion replaces confidence. Elena zooms her phone camera on the document. Her followers can see the Meridian logo, the legal formatting, the official appearance. What is that David Miller asks? Zara looks directly at Brad. This is the signed agreement transferring ownership of Meridian Airways to Vanguard Enterprises, completed yesterday at 3:47 p.m. Eastern Time. The words hit the cabin like physical blows. Brad stares at the document. His brain processes the information, slowly refusing to accept what his eyes are telling him. Purchase price. Zara continues. $847 million. Full cash transaction. Complete operational control transferred to the new owner. Carmen's mouth falls open. Captain Thompson's eyes widen. Elena's livestream chat becomes a blur of shocked reactions and laughing, crying emojis. New owner Zara says, looking directly at Brad. Zara Michelle Williams, CEO and founder of Vanguard Enterprises. The silence that follows is absolute. Even the aircraft's systems seem to quiet. 40 passengers in first class and business class lean forward to hear better. Brad's face cycles through emotions, confusion, denial, realization, horror. That's impossible, he whispers. Zara turns the document toward him so he can read the signature lines. Her name in elegant script next to the signature of Victoria Hammond, CEO. Yesterday's date. Notary seals. Corporate authentication. Welcome aboard my airline, Mr. Montgomery. The phrase hangs in the air like a verdict. Elena's viewer count hits 50,000. Her followers are losing their absolute minds. She owns the airline. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Justice served at 30,000 feet. This man just discriminated against his new boss. Brad stares at the document, then at Zara, then back at the document. His mouth opens and closes like a fish out of water. This is... you can't be... He can't form complete sentences. $847 million, Zara repeats. Do you think that qualifies me to sit in first class on my own airline? David Miller starts laughing. Not cruel laughter, but the kind of amazement that comes from watching perfect justice unfold in real time. Captain Thompson straightens to attention. He's just realized he's been talking to his new boss while she was being harassed by a passenger. Ma'am, Captain Thompson says I apologize for not intervening more forcefully. This behavior is completely unacceptable. You handled it perfectly. Captain Zara replies, I wanted to see exactly what would happen, how far it would go, what policies were in place to protect passengers from this kind of treatment. Carmen finally finds her voice. Ms. Williams. I'm so sorry. I should have. You did your job exactly as you were trained? Zara interrupts, which tells me we need better training. Brad suddenly stands up, bumping his head on the overhead bin. I didn't know. You have to understand, I didn't know who you were, and that matters why Zara asks. Would your behavior have been different if I were just a regular passenger? Would discrimination be acceptable if I weren't the owner? The question cuts to the heart of everything. Brad's mouth opens, but no words come out. Elena addresses her phone camera. Y'all, this is what justice looks like. This man thought he could abuse a black woman because she didn't belong in first class. Turns out she owns the whole airplane. Her live stream hits 75,000 viewers. The story is spreading across social media faster than wildfire. In the Meridian Airways headquarters, Victoria Hammond's phone is ringing constantly. PR team, board members, media outlets. Everyone wants to know about the viral video of a racist passenger attacking the airline's new owner. Her head of communications bursts into her office. Victoria, we've got a situation. There's a viral live stream of a passenger discriminating against someone in first class. The victim is claiming to be the new owner of the airline. Victoria opens the live stream link her assistant sends her, sees Elena's TikTok feed, watches Bradford Montgomery call Zara Williams a charity case who doesn't belong in first class. Oh my God, Victoria whispers. He's harassing Zara. On her first flight as owner. The irony is perfect and terrible. The exact kind of discrimination that Zara bought the airline to eliminate is happening to Zara herself on her first day as owner, being broadcast to thousands of people in real time. Victoria starts making calls, emergency meetings, crisis management, full corporate response to support their new owner and handle the public relations nightmare developing at 30,000 feet. Back in the cabin, other passengers are starting to understand what they're witnessing. Whispers spread through business class. People crane their necks to see the confrontation. A passenger in 3B takes out his phone and starts recording from a different angle. Then someone in 2D. Within minutes, multiple cameras are capturing Bradford Montgomery's complete meltdown. This is insane, Brad mutters. This can't be happening. What can't be happening? Zara asks. That I own this airline, or that there are consequences for discrimination. I wasn't discriminating. I was pointing out practical concerns about seating arrangements. You said I was a charity case, Zara reminds him. You said I was using affirmative action to access spaces I didn't earn. You said people like me don't belong in first class. Each phrase is a nail in his coffin, and it's all been recorded, live-streamed, and shared thousands of times. Brad looks around the cabin desperately. Every face stares back at him with combinations of shock, disgust, and amazement. I want to speak to the real management, he says suddenly. This is obviously some kind of setup, some kind of lawsuit scheme. Carmen pulls out her tablet and opens the Meridian Airways corporate directory, shows Brad the screen. Sir, this is our company website. As of yesterday, Vanguard Enterprises is listed as the parent company. Zara Williams is listed as chairman and CEO. Brad stares at the screen. Corporate verification of his worst nightmare. Elena continues narrating for her followers. This man spent the last 20 minutes explaining why black people don't belong in first class. Now he's finding out that this particular black woman owns the airline and has 847 million reasons why his opinion doesn't matter. Viewer count hits 100,000. The hashtags Meridian Airways and Bradford Montgomery are trending on Twitter. The story is being picked up by major news outlets. Screenshots and clips are spreading across every social media platform. In his office at Montgomery Capital Partners, Brad's business partner, Kevin Walsh, is watching his phone blow up with notifications. Clients, investors, and colleagues are sending him links to the viral video. Kevin opens the TikTok stream and watches his partner and best friend destroy their company's reputation in real time. Montgomery Capital Partners specializes in corporate acquisitions. Their business depends entirely on relationships, trust, and reputation. Brad's public meltdown is ending all of that. Kevin starts making calls, damage control, client retention, crisis management. But he knows it's probably too late. In the age of social media, some mistakes are permanent. Brad finally sits down heavily in seat 1B. His face is pale, his hands shaking. The reality of his situation is starting to sink in. "Ms. Williams," he says quietly, "I apologize. This was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Zara asks. "You misunderstood my race. You misunderstood that discrimination is wrong. You misunderstood that all passengers deserve respect." Brad has no answer that doesn't make things worse. Captain Thompson addresses the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be departing shortly. I apologize for the delay and any discomfort this situation may have caused." He turns to Zara. "Ma'am, how would you like to proceed?" Zara looks at Brad. He's shrunk into his seat, trying to become invisible. The powerful, aggressive man from 10 minutes ago has disappeared, replaced by someone who looks like he wants to crawl into the overhead bin and hide. "We proceed exactly as planned," Captain Zara says. "This is a learning experience for everyone." She turns to address the cabin, her voice carrying to every passenger. "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Zara Williams, and as of yesterday I'm the new owner of Meridian Airways. What you just witnessed is exactly why this airline needed new leadership." Applause starts somewhere in business class and spreads forward. Passengers stand and clap. Elena blows kisses at her phone camera for her followers. "This will never happen again on my airline," Zara continues. "Every passenger deserves dignity, respect, and equal treatment." "That's not just my promise, that's my guarantee." The applause grows louder. Brad sits in stunned silence, realizing that his worst moment is being broadcast to hundreds of thousands of people and will probably define the rest of his life. Carmen wipes tears from her eyes. In 8 years of flying, she's never seen justice served so perfectly or so publicly. Captain Thompson returns to the cockpit to prepare for departure. He's got a story to tell his wife when he gets home. About the day he watched a racist passenger discriminate against the woman who owned the plane. Elena ends her live stream with a message to her followers. "Y'all just witnessed something incredible. This is why we speak up. This is why we record. This is why we don't let hate win." Final viewer count 150,000, shares 50,000, comments 25,000. The video will be seen by millions before the plane lands in Los Angeles. Bradford Montgomery's reputation, career, and life as he knows it are already over. But the consequences are just beginning. Elena Vasquez's phone battery is at 15%, but she keeps filming. 150,000 people watched her live stream. Now the video is being shared faster than her notifications can load. She whispers to her camera one final time, Abuela Elena signing off. "Remember, babies, speak up when you see injustice. Record when you witness hate. And never, ever let bullies win." She hits the stop button and immediately starts uploading clips to every platform she knows. But Elena isn't the only one documenting this moment. In seat 2C, David Miller has filled 6 pages of legal notes. Times quotes witness names. As an employment attorney, he's taking depositions in his head-building cases that haven't been filed yet. David opens his Twitter account and starts threading what he's witnessed thread currently on Meridian Airways Flight 847. Just witnessed the most blatant case of airline discrimination I've ever seen. Passenger demanded black woman be moved from first class. Plot twist, she owns the airline. His first tweet gets 500 retweets in 90 seconds. The passenger in 3B, Marcus Thompson, a tech blogger with 50,000 YouTube subscribers, has been recording on his phone since the confrontation began. He uploads a compilation video titled Racist Passenger versus Airline Owner. Watch this man destroy his life in 10 minutes. By the time Flight 847 reaches cruising altitude, the story has exploded across every social media platform. On TikTok, Bradford Montgomery has 2.3 million views. Meridian Owner has 1.8 million. First Class Justice has 900,000. On Twitter, Meridian Airways is trending number 3 nationally. Airline discrimination is trending number 7. On Instagram, reaction videos are flooding feeds. Screenshots of Brad's face during the revelation become instant memes. On Reddit, public freakout, justice served, and quit your bullshit are all featuring different angles of the confrontation. The mainstream media picks up the story within an hour. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS, every network is scrambling to get the exclusive interview with Zara Williams. But the real damage is happening to Bradford Montgomery in real time. His phone starts buzzing during takeoff. Text messages from colleagues who've seen the video. Voicemails from clients threatening to pull their investments. Emails from business partners demanding explanations. Montgomery Capital Partners' official Twitter account is being ratioed by thousands of angry users demanding they fire Bradford Montgomery. Their Instagram is flooded with screenshots of Brad's racist comments. Their LinkedIn is overwhelmed with 1-star reviews. Brad tries calling his office. His assistant Jennifer picks up on the first ring. Mr. Montgomery, thank God. We've been trying to reach you. Kevin needs to talk to you immediately. The phones haven't stopped ringing. Clients are cancelling meetings. The pension board pulled out of the Henderson deal. So what happened on that plane? Brad can't explain because he doesn't fully understand it himself. An hour ago, he was a successful venture capitalist, traveling to close a $100 million deal. Now he's a viral symbol of airline discrimination who just discriminated against the woman who owns the airline. Put Kevin on, Brad says. Kevin Walsh's voice is tight with barely controlled panic. Brad, please tell me this video is fake. Please tell me you didn't actually call a black woman a charity case on an airplane while being filmed by 50,000 people. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like. You spent 10 minutes explaining why black people don't belong in first class to a woman who owns the airline. Do you have any idea what this is doing to our business? Kevin reads him the list. Peterson Industries cancelled their contract. The State Employee Pension Fund is reviewing all partnerships. 3 major clients have moved their money to competing firms. We're looking at $30 million in lost revenue before you land in Los Angeles. Kevin says, and that's just today. The regulatory implications alone could shut us down. Brad looks across the aisle. Zara is back to reading her iPad, completely calm as if nothing happened. She looks up, catches him staring, and nods politely, like he's a stranger she's being courteous to. The gesture somehow makes everything worse. In the Meridian Airways Crisis Management Center in Atlanta, CEO Victoria Hammond is running a war room operation. 12 staff members monitor social media feeds, news coverage, and customer service channels. Mom, her communications director, says we're actually getting positive coverage. The story is that our new owner handled discrimination with grace and professionalism. Customer sentiment is overwhelmingly supportive. Victoria watches Eleanor's TikTok compilation video for the 10th time. Zara's calm responses, her dignity under pressure, her measured revelation of ownership. It's a masterclass in leadership under fire. How many new followers have we gained? Victoria asks. 60,000 on Twitter, 40,000 on Instagram, 100,000 on TikTok. People are saying they want to fly with an airline that stands up to racism. Victoria smiles for the first time all day. Book me a call with Ms. Williams when she lands. We need to discuss how to turn this crisis into an opportunity. Meanwhile, the Federal Aviation Administration is monitoring the situation. Discrimination complaints against airlines trigger automatic reviews. The viral nature of this incident means congressional oversight committees will demand explanations. But for now, the plane continues toward Los Angeles, carrying the most documented case of airline discrimination in aviation history. Carmen Rodriguez has been getting text messages from family and friends who've seen the videos. Her cousin Mitchell, the VP of Customer Relations, calls her directly. Carmen mija, are you okay? I saw the live stream. You handled that perfectly. I didn't do anything, Mitchell. I just stood there while a passenger got harassed. You followed protocol under impossible circumstances. The fact that the passenger turned out to be the new owner doesn't change that you did your job professionally. Carmen looks toward Zara's seat. Mitchell, what kind of person is she? The new owner. From everything I've heard, she's brilliant, fair, and focused on treating employees and customers with respect. This incident proves she understands exactly what needs to change about airline culture. Carmen feels something like hope for the first time in hours. In first class, the atmosphere has completely shifted. What started as a tense confrontation has become something like a celebration. Passengers keep approaching Zara to introduce themselves, thank her for standing up to discrimination, and share their own stories of prejudice in travel. Elena Vasquez moves to the empty seat next to Zara. Honey, I've been fighting bullies for 40 years, and I have never seen anything as beautiful as what just happened. Thank you for recording it, Zara says. Documentation is the only way to create accountability. How did you stay so calm? I would have lost my mind. Zara smiles. My grandmother taught me that dignity is the most powerful weapon against hate. You can't fight prejudice with anger, you fight it with excellence. David Miller introduces himself and offers his legal services if Zara wants to pursue civil rights litigation against Brad personally. That won't be necessary, Zara says. He's already facing the consequences of his choices. I'm more interested in making sure this never happens to anyone else. Other passengers share their stories. A Hispanic businessman talks about being questioned about his first-class ticket on every flight. A black professor describes being accused of stealing her seat assignment. An Asian American doctor tells about passengers requesting different medics because they assumed she wasn't qualified. Zara listens to each story, takes notes, asks questions. She's collecting data for the changes she plans to implement. Brad sits in increasingly uncomfortable silence, forced to listen as passenger after passenger describes experiencing exactly the kind of discrimination he'd just perpetuated. He's starting to understand that his behavior wasn't isolated or unique. It was part of a pattern that Zara Williams had bought an airline to stop. The flight attendants have been instructed to treat him professionally but coolly. No extra attention, no special service, no acknowledgement of his status complaints. For the first time in years, Brad is experiencing what it feels like to be just another passenger. It's a preview of his new reality. On social media, the story continues exploding. Celebrity commenters weigh in. Activist organizations amplify the message. Travel bloggers use the incident to discuss discrimination in hospitality industries. The hashtag Dignity in Travel becomes a rallying cry for equal treatment in airlines, hotels, and restaurants. Airlines across the country start reviewing their own discrimination policies, knowing that viral incidents like this can destroy reputations overnight. Hospitality industry executives schedule emergency meetings to discuss bias training and accountability measures. Business schools add the incident to their curricula as a case study in crisis management and corporate leadership. Bradford Montgomery becomes the poster child for what not to do in customer service, in human relations, in basic human decency. But the story is bigger than one racist passenger. It's about an industry that has tolerated discrimination for too long. About customers who have endured prejudice in silence. About the power of documentation to demand accountability. And about a young black woman who bought an airline not for profit, but for purpose. As Flight 847 approaches the California coast, Zara receives a call from her legal team. The acquisition paperwork has been finalized. Her authority as owner is now official and public. Ma'am, her head of legal says every major news network wants an interview when you land. The governor of California's office called. You're being invited to speak at the Congressional Black Caucus. This incident has become a national conversation about discrimination in travel. Zara looks out of the window at the Los Angeles skyline growing larger below them. When she boarded this flight, she was a successful businesswoman who happened to own an airline. Now she's the symbol of justice in travel, the face of change in corporate America, the woman who turned a moment of discrimination into a movement for dignity. She didn't plan for viral fame. She planned for transformation. But sometimes the universe gives you exactly the platform you need to create the change you envision. Flight 847 is on final approach. The plane is carrying more than passengers. It's carrying a story that will reshape how discrimination is tolerated, documented, and punished in America. Bradford Montgomery stares out his window at the approaching runway, knowing his life as he knew it ended somewhere over Kansas, broadcast live to hundreds of thousands of witnesses. But Zara Williams looks ahead to a future where no passenger will ever again be told they don't belong in a seat they paid for on a plane they have every right to board in a country that promises equality to all. The plane touches down at LAX. The transformation begins now. The plane taxis toward the gate, while Zara Williams becomes the most powerful person in commercial aviation, not because of her wealth or her business success, but because of how she wielded both with grace under pressure. Her phone buzzes with a call from Victoria Hammond. Ms. Williams, this is Victoria Hammond, CEO of Meridian Airways. I'm calling to apologize for the discrimination I experienced on my first flight as owner. Zara interrupts, but her voice is calm, not angry. Yes, ma'am. And to discuss immediate implementation of new policies to ensure this never happens again. Zara looks across the aisle at Bradford Montgomery, who's staring at his own phone in horror as notifications pile up faster than he can read them. Actually, Victoria, this incident was exactly what I needed to see. It confirmed everything I suspected about airline culture and gave me the perfect case study for the changes we're implementing. Mr. Montgomery just provided us with the most comprehensive demonstration of passenger discrimination ever recorded. His behavior reveals every bias, assumption, and prejudice that we need to eliminate. We couldn't have scripted a better training scenario. Victoria realizes that her new owner isn't devastated by this incident, she's energized by it. What are your immediate directives? Victoria asks. Emergency meeting with senior staff when I land. Full review of discrimination policies. Mandatory bias training for all customer-facing employees. And I want Carmen Rodriguez, the flight attendant who handled this situation, promoted immediately. Yes, ma'am. Anything else? Zara looks around the first-class cabin at passengers who are still processing what they witnessed. I want a public statement released in 1 hour. Not an apology, a declaration. Meridian Airways will be the first airline with zero tolerance for discrimination. Not just against passengers, but between passengers. We're changing the rules. In seat 1B, Brad finally looks at the document Zara had placed on his tray table. The acquisition agreement. $847 million. Yesterday's date. Legal signatures that transferred ownership of an entire airline to the woman he'd tried to have removed for being black. The cosmic justice is so perfect it feels scripted. His phone rings. Sarah, his soon-to-be ex-wife. "Bradford, what did you do?" "Sarah, I can explain. The whole world is watching you call a black woman a charity case on an airplane. Our children's friends are sending them videos of their father being a racist on the internet." Madison is crying. "Bradford Jr. won't come home." "It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like. You're exactly who I thought you were, and now everyone knows it." She hangs up. Brad's business partner Kevin calls again. "Brad, it's over. The board met in emergency session. You're out. Effective immediately. Security is packing your office." "Kevin, you can't. I can't save the company if your name is attached to it. The discrimination video has 40 million views across all platforms. We've lost every major client. The SEC is opening an investigation into our compliance practices. This is insane. I didn't commit a crime. You committed career suicide on live television. Don't contact the office. Don't contact our clients. Your access to everything is revoked." Kevin hangs up. Brad sits in stunned silence as his life collapses in real time. 30 years of building a business empire destroyed in 10 minutes of revealing his true character on an airplane. Meanwhile, the passengers around him are living in a completely different reality. The atmosphere in first class has become celebratory. People are exchanging contact information, planning to stay in touch, sharing stories about the most incredible flight of their lives. Elena Vasquez is fielding interview requests from news networks. Her TikTok following has grown from 150,000 to 400,000 in 4 hours. She's become the grandmother who documented justice in real time. David Miller is writing a law review article in his head about viral accountability in discrimination cases. He's already been contacted by 3 major publications wanting expert commentary on the legal implications of the incident. Captain Marcus Thompson has been getting calls from airline industry magazines wanting to interview him about leadership during passenger conflicts. He handled the situation professionally, while his new owner was being discriminated against, and the aviation industry wants to understand his perspective. Carmen Rodriguez received a text from her cousin Mitchell. "Corporate says you're getting promoted to lead flight attendant with a $20,000 raise. Your pilot training will be fully funded by the company. You stood up for the right thing at the right time." She's crying quiet tears of relief and joy. But Zara Williams is focused on the future. She's not celebrating Brad's downfall, she's planning the transformation that his behavior made possible. Her assistant calls from New York. "Ms. Williams, the story has been picked up by every major news outlet. CNN wants an exclusive interview." The Today Show is requesting a live appearance tomorrow morning. The president's office called. They want to discuss your perspective on discrimination in travel for a potential executive order. Schedule everything for after the corporate meeting, Zara says. The story isn't about punishing one racist passenger. It's about changing an entire industry's tolerance for discrimination. As the plane reaches the gate, other passengers start standing and gathering their belongings. But many stop to talk to Zara, to thank her, to share their contact information for follow-up conversations about discrimination in travel. A black businessman shakes her hand. "Ma'am, I've been degraded on flights more times than I can count. Seeing someone like you own the plane and demand dignity, that's everything." A Hispanic woman with 2 young daughters approaches. "My girls need to see women who look like us in positions of power. Thank you for not staying silent." An elderly white couple stops by her seat. "We're ashamed that we didn't speak up sooner," the husband says. "We saw what was happening and we should have said something." "You're speaking up now," Zara replies. "That's what matters." Brad remains seated, afraid to stand, afraid to walk past the gauntlet of passengers who witnessed his humiliation. He's hoping everyone will leave the plane before he has to face the awkward journey to baggage claim. But Zara has other plans. She stands and addresses the cabin one final time. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we disembark, I want to say something. What happened on this flight today was wrong, but it wasn't unique. Discrimination happens on airplanes, in hotels, in restaurants, in workplaces every single day. Usually it happens without witnesses, without recordings, without consequences. The cabin falls silent. Everyone stops moving. The difference today was that you all became witnesses. You all had the courage to document injustice instead of ignoring it. You all refused to let discrimination happen in silence. Applause starts again, but Zara raises her hand to continue. "Mr. Montgomery," she says, looking directly at Brad, who shrinks deeper into his seat. "You asked if I belong in first class. You questioned whether I could afford this seat. You suggested that I was taking advantage of programs I didn't earn." Brad can't meet her eyes. "I want to answer those questions publicly for everyone who has ever been made to feel like they don't belong." She pulls out her phone and opens her banking app, shows the screen to the cabin. Current liquid assets, $1.2 billion. Real estate portfolio, $430 million. Business equity, $2.8 billion. Gasps ripple through the cabin. "I didn't buy this airline because I needed another investment. I bought it because I needed a platform to demand change. Your behavior. Mr. Montgomery proved that this industry desperately needs new leadership." She puts her phone away and looks around the cabin. Every person in this cabin, regardless of race, gender, age, or economic status, belongs anywhere they can afford to be. Dignity isn't determined by dress code or demographics. Respect isn't rationed based on assumptions about net worth. The applause is thunderous now, and on my airline, discrimination isn't just prohibited, it's impossible, because we're changing the rules that allow it, training the staff to prevent it, and creating accountability measures that eliminate it. She turns back to Brad one final time. "Mr. Montgomery, you're banned from flying Meridian Airways for life. Not because of what you said to me, I can handle prejudice, but because of what you revealed about your character. And character, unlike net worth, can't be purchased." With that, Zara Williams walks off the plane, leaving behind a cabin full of witnesses who just experienced justice delivered with perfect precision. Brad remains in his seat until the plane is empty except for the cleaning crew. When he finally stands to leave, his legs shake. His phone is dead from constant notifications. His career is over. His family is gone. His reputation is destroyed. But as he walks through the airport, he passes a newsstand where every television is playing footage from Elena's live stream. His face on every screen. His words being analyzed by legal experts, criticized by civil rights leaders, discussed by politicians. He's become the poster child for everything wrong with discrimination in America. Meanwhile, Zara Williams walks through LAX surrounded by a media scrum. Reporters shout questions about her plans for the airline, her response to discrimination, her message to other business leaders. She stops in front of the cameras and delivers a statement that will be quoted in business schools for decades. "Today, a passenger tried to remove me from first class because he assumed I didn't belong there. He was wrong about my qualifications, but right about one thing: I don't belong in first class. I belong in the cockpit because I own the plane." The crowd erupts in applause and cheers. Discrimination doesn't end because one racist passenger faces consequences. It ends when entire industries decide that dignity is non-negotiable. Today, Meridian Airways made that decision. Tomorrow, I hope every airline follows our example. She walks away from the cameras toward a black SUV where her team waits with plans for corporate transformation, policy implementation, and industry-wide change. Bradford Montgomery exits the airport through a side door, calling Uber for a ride to a hotel where he'll hide from cameras and plan his defense against the career destruction he brought upon himself. But his story is over. Zara Williams' story is just beginning, and the airline industry will never be the same. The black SUV carries Zara Williams through Los Angeles traffic toward Meridian Airways regional headquarters. In the back seat, she reviews the corporate restructuring plans her team prepared during the flight. Her phone hasn't stopped ringing. CNN, MSNBC, The Today Show, Good Morning America. Every major media outlet wants an exclusive interview with the woman who turned airline discrimination into a masterclass in corporate justice. But first, she has an airline to transform. Meanwhile, Bradford Montgomery sits in his hotel room at the LAX Marriott, watching his life disintegrate on live television. Every news channel is covering the story. Social media is exploding with reaction videos, memes, and commentary about his behavior. His Twitter account has been suspended for hateful conduct after being reported by thousands of users. His LinkedIn profile is flooded with negative comments from business professionals condemning his actions. His Instagram is set to private after being overrun by angry messages. Montgomery Capital Partners released a statement at 3 p.m. Pacific Time. Montgomery Capital Partners denounces the discriminatory behavior displayed by Bradford Montgomery on Meridian Airways Flight 847. Mr. Montgomery's actions do not represent our company's values or policies. Effective immediately, Mr. Montgomery has been terminated from all positions and removed from company ownership. We apologize to Ms. Williams and all passengers who witnessed this unacceptable conduct. Brad stares at the statement on his laptop screen. 30 years of building a business erased in a single paragraph. His phone rings. His lawyer, Patricia Williams. Brad, we need to talk. Several civil rights organizations are considering legal action. The airline could sue for defamation. Your ex-wife's divorce attorney is using the video as evidence of character issues that could affect custody and asset division. Patricia, this is insane. I made some comments on an airplane. I didn't commit a felony. You committed a very public act of discrimination that was broadcast to millions of people. In today's economy, reputation destruction is often worse than criminal conviction. Companies can't risk association with your name. So what are you saying? I'm saying you need to disappear from public view issue, a comprehensive apology, enter sensitivity training, and hope that in 5 years people might forget your face. Brad hangs up and throws his phone across the room. At Meridian Airways headquarters, Zara Williams walks into the executive conference room where the senior leadership team waits nervously. CEO Victoria Hammond, VP of Operations David Park, Chief Financial Officer Maria Santos, and Head of Customer Relations Mitchell Rodriguez. They've all watched the viral videos. They know their new owner was discriminated against on her first flight with their airline. Good evening, Zara says, taking her seat at the head of the table. I assume you've all seen the documentation of today's incident. Ms. Williams Victoria begins. We are mortified by what happened. We take full responsibility for the failure to protect you from discriminatory harassment. Actually, Zara interrupts today, was perfect. That passenger gave us exactly what we needed to justify the changes I'm implementing. The executives exchange glances. They expected anger demands for firings, threats of lawsuits. Instead, their new owner seems energized. Mr. Montgomery's behavior revealed every problem in airline customer service, Zara continues. Staff paralyzed by fear of high-value customers. Passengers emboldened to discriminate against other passengers. Policies that protect status over human dignity. She opens her tablet and displays a presentation. Here's what changes immediately. Zero tolerance discrimination policy. Any passenger who harasses another passenger based on race, gender, religion, or any protected characteristic is permanently banned from our airline. Mitchell Rodriguez takes notes furiously. Second, customer status programs are restructured. Spending money with our airline earns perks like upgrades and lounge access. It doesn't earn the right to abuse other passengers or intimidate staff. Maria Santos nods approvingly. Third, all customer-facing employees receive mandatory bias training. Not diversity seminars, actual behavioral training on recognizing and interrupting discrimination. David Park asks, What about staff who refuse to intervene when they witness discrimination? They find new jobs, Zara says simply. Carmen Rodriguez showed today how to handle passenger conflicts professionally while protecting everyone's dignity. That's our new standard. Victoria Hammond smiles. Ms. Williams, these policies will differentiate us from every other airline. Customers will choose us specifically because we guarantee respectful treatment. Exactly. We're not just changing policy, we're changing the market. Airlines compete on price, comfort, and schedule. We're adding dignity as a competitive advantage. Zara's phone buzzes with a text from her communications director. CNN, ABC, and NBC all confirmed for interviews tomorrow. Wall Street Journal wants exclusive for Sunday business section. Stock analysts say positive customer reaction could increase company valuation by $200 million. She shows the message to the executives. The business case for treating people with dignity isn't just moral, it's profitable. While Zara plans transformation, Brad Montgomery's destruction continues accelerating. His estranged wife Sarah posts on Facebook. Many of you have seen the viral video of my husband's racist behavior on an airplane today. I want to be clear, his actions do not represent my values or those I'm teaching our children. We separated 6 months ago, and this incident confirms that divorce was the right decision. The post gets 10,000 likes and 3,000 shares in 2 hours. Brad's children, Madison and Bradford Jr., both college students, release a joint statement through their mother. We condemn our father's discriminatory actions and apologize to Ms. Williams and all passengers who witnessed his behavior. His words do not reflect how we were raised or what we believe. We support our mother's decision to distance our family from his actions. Brad's own children have publicly disowned him. His business clients continue abandoning ship. The Hamilton Pension Fund, which had $500 million invested with Montgomery Capital Partners, withdraws completely. The Teachers Union retirement account follows with another $300 million. By evening, Montgomery Capital Partners has lost 80% of its assets under management. Kevin Walsh, Brad's former business partner, schedules meetings with bankruptcy attorneys, but the consequences extend beyond personal destruction. The incident sparks industry-wide conversations about discrimination in travel. American Airlines announces a review of their customer conflict policies. Delta implements new bias training for flight crews. United creates an anonymous reporting device for passengers who experience discrimination. The Federal Aviation Administration opens an investigation into discriminatory practices across all major airlines. Congressional oversight committees schedule hearings on civil rights compliance in transportation industries. The Department of Transportation announces new regulations requiring airlines to publicly report discrimination complaints and detail remediation efforts. Brad Montgomery's racist outburst accidentally triggered the most comprehensive civil rights review of the airline industry in 30 years. But individual accountability matters most. Elena Vasquez. The grandmother who documented everything on TikTok receives a call from the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, MITSA. Vasquez, your video documentation may be crucial evidence in broader discrimination litigation against airlines. Would you be willing to testify about what you witnessed? Absolutely, Elena says. That young woman handled that situation with more grace than I've ever seen. But no one should have to endure what she experienced. Elena's TikTok following grows to 800,000. Her story becomes a case study in citizen journalism and the power of social media documentation to create accountability. David Miller, the employment attorney who witnessed the incident, is contacted by 6 law firms interested in hiring him based on his professional handling of the situation. His Twitter thread about the incident becomes required reading in civil rights law courses. Captain Marcus Thompson receives commendations from the Aviation Professional Association for his leadership during passenger conflicts. He's offered positions with 3 major airlines seeking leaders who can handle sensitive situations with professionalism and dignity. Carmen Rodriguez arrives home to find her sons Miguel and Diego waiting with homemade signs. "Congratulations, Mom, on your promotion." Her mother cooks her favorite meal to celebrate her raise and her acceptance into company-funded pilot training. Mija, her mother, says, "You stood up for the right thing when it was dangerous. That's who I raised you to be." Carmen starts crying again, but this time from joy. At 8 p.m. Pacific Time, Zara Williams appears on CNN's Anderson Cooper 360 for her first major interview since the incident. "Ms. Williams, millions of people watched you experience discrimination today. What was going through your mind during that confrontation? I was thinking about my grandmother, who taught me that dignity is the most powerful response to hatred. I was thinking about every passenger who has experienced similar treatment without cameras rolling. And I was thinking about the responsibility that comes with owning a platform for change. Some people might say you set that passenger up, that you deliberately let him discriminate against you to make a point." Anderson: "I boarded that plane as a paying passenger, dressed casually, sitting in the seat I purchased. If that constitutes setting someone up, then every black person who exists in spaces where others think we don't belong is guilty of the same crime." The interview gets 4.2 million views. Clips go viral on every social media platform. "What happens to Bradford Montgomery now?" Anderson asks. Mr. Montgomery faces the consequences of his choices. His career, his family relationships, his reputation, those were destroyed by his own words and actions. I didn't do that to him. He did it to himself in public with witnesses. Do you feel any sympathy for him? Zara pauses thoughtfully. I feel sympathy for people who are hurt by discrimination. I feel sympathy for his children who have to live with their father's actions. But for him, he's experiencing accountability, not persecution. There's a difference. The interview cements Zara Williams as a moral authority on discrimination and corporate responsibility. Harvard Business School invites her to give the keynote address at their next leadership conference. The United Nations asks her to speak about dignity in commerce. Meanwhile, Brad Montgomery turns off his hotel television and sits in darkness. He's lost everything: his business, his family, his reputation, his future. All because he couldn't tolerate sitting next to a black woman on an airplane. The cosmic justice is perfect. The man who said Zara Williams didn't belong in first class discovered that she owned the entire plane. The passenger who questioned her right to be there found out she had bought the airline he was flying. But beyond individual consequences, the incident creates lasting change. Meridian Airways becomes the first airline with a zero-tolerance discrimination policy. Other airlines follow suit to avoid similar public relations disasters. Airports implement new training for handling passenger conflicts. Flight crews receive updated protocols for protecting passengers from harassment. The viral documentation sparks a broader cultural conversation about discrimination in service industries. Hotels, restaurants, and retail companies review their policies and train staff on bias prevention. Bradford Montgomery wanted to remove one black woman from one airplane seat. Instead, he accidentally launched a movement for dignity in travel that will protect millions of passengers for generations. His moment of hatred became a catalyst for lasting justice, and Zara Williams transformed personal discrimination into industry-wide transformation, exactly as her grandmother taught her to do. Own the building, change the rules, demand dignity for everyone. The revolution started at 30,000 feet, but it's landing everywhere that matters. 6 months later, Zara Williams stands in the exact same first-class cabin where Bradford Montgomery tried to have her removed. Flight 847, the morning departure to Los Angeles. The same route, the same aircraft, the same seat 1A. But everything else has changed. Carmen Rodriguez walks through the cabin wearing pilot's wings on her uniform. She completed accelerated training through Meridian Airways' new professional development program, becoming the airline's youngest Latina captain. Her twin sons Miguel and Diego are in the cockpit, wearing junior pilot pins, participating in the company's Take Your Children to Work program. "Good morning, Ms. Williams," Captain Rodriguez says. "It's an honor to be flying you to Los Angeles today." "The honor is mine," Captain Zara replies. "How does it feel to be in command?" "Like everything my mother told me was possible when I was 8 years old." Carmen says, her eyes bright with accomplishment. Elena Vasquez sits in 2A, the same seat where she documented justice 6 months ago. Now 85 years old, and TikTok famous with 2.3 million followers. She's traveling to Los Angeles to receive the NAACP's Digital Advocacy Award for her role in creating accountability through social media documentation. Mija Elena says to Zara, "You changed everything. I fly every month now, and I've never seen passengers treat each other with more respect. Flight crews protect everyone's dignity. The whole industry learned from what happened here." David Miller sits in 2C, traveling to a civil rights law conference where he's presenting a keynote speech titled "Viral Accountability: How Social Media Documentation Creates Real-World Justice." His Twitter thread about witnessing discrimination has been used as evidence in 6 successful civil rights lawsuits. "Ms. Williams," David says, "I've practiced employment law for 20 years, but I'd never seen such perfect real-time accountability. You turned a moment of hatred into lasting institutional change." The first-class cabin fills with a diverse mix of passengers. Black executives in casual clothes sit next to white families in designer outfits. Hispanic entrepreneurs work alongside Asian American students. No one questions anyone else's right to be there. No one makes assumptions about who belongs or who can afford their seat. This is what transformation looks like: ordinary people sharing space with mutual respect, protected by policies that guarantee dignity for everyone. Zara reviews the quarterly reports on her tablet. Meridian Airways has become the most profitable mid-sized airline in America. Customer satisfaction scores are the highest in industry history. Employee retention is at record levels. The company's market value has doubled, but the numbers that matter most are different. 0 discrimination complaints in 6 months. 0 passengers removed for discriminatory harassment. 0 tolerance policies enforced fairly and consistently. The airline industry has followed Meridian's example. American Airlines implemented similar policies after a viral incident involving discrimination against a Muslim passenger. Delta created new bias training after employees failed to protect a transgender traveler from harassment. United restructured their customer status programs after high-value passengers demanded disabled passengers be removed from premium cabins. The Federal Aviation Administration now requires annual civil rights compliance reporting from all airlines. The Department of Transportation publishes discrimination complaint data, publicly creating market pressure for respectful treatment. Congressional oversight committees passed the Passenger Bill of Rights guaranteeing equal treatment regardless of race, gender, religion, disability, or appearance. Airlines that fail to protect passengers from discrimination face federal penalties and license reviews. Bradford Montgomery's moment of public racism accidentally triggered the most comprehensive civil rights advancement in transportation since the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But personal transformation matters more than policy changes. Zara's phone buzzes with a text message from an unknown number. "This is Bradford Montgomery. I know I have no right to contact you, but I wanted you to know that I've completed 18 months of intensive bias counseling and community service. I'll never be able to undo the harm I caused, but I'm trying to become a better person. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to offer accountability." Zara shows the message to Elena, who reads it and shakes her head. "What do you think?" Abuela Zara asks. "Mija, some people change because they get caught. Others change because they get called. Time will tell which kind he is." Zara deletes the message without responding. Bradford Montgomery's redemption is his own responsibility. Her focus is on preventing future Bradfords from harming innocent passengers. The plane pushes back from the gate on time with no passenger conflicts, no discrimination complaints, no reason for intervention. Captain Rodriguez's voice comes over the intercom, with the safety briefing delivered in both English and Spanish, acknowledging the diverse passenger community that airlines now serve proudly. As Flight 847 climbs toward cruising altitude, Zara reflects on the chain of events that started in this exact seat 6 months ago. One racist passenger tried to remove her for being black. His actions destroyed his life, transformed an airline, changed an industry, and created lasting protection for millions of travelers. Her grandmother Ruth's words echo in her memory. "You can fight them, or you can own the building. Fighting makes you tired. Owning makes you powerful." Zara didn't just own the building, she rebuilt it with dignity as the foundation. Her phone rings with a call from Victoria Hammond, who remained as President of Operations after the acquisition. "Ms. Williams, I have news from the corporate office. We just received confirmation that Meridian Airways has been selected as the official airline partner for the United Nations Human Rights Council. They want us to provide transportation for international delegations, specifically because of our commitment to passenger dignity." Zara smiles. "Schedule the contract signing for next week, and Victoria makes sure we have diverse crews on all UN flights. Representation matters. Already arranged. Carmen Rodriguez will captain the first flight to Geneva next month." As the plane levels off at cruising altitude, Zara stands and addresses the cabin for the second time in 6 months. But this time, her words aren't about confronting discrimination, they're about celebrating transformation. "Ladies and gentlemen, many of you know the history of this particular flight. 6 months ago, a passenger attempted to have me removed from first class because of my race. Today, I'm proud to tell you that Meridian Airways has had 0 discrimination incidents since implementing our new policies." Applause fills the cabin. This change didn't happen because one racist passenger faced consequences. It happened because good people like Captain Rodriguez, like Mrs. Vasquez, like Mr. Miller decided that dignity isn't negotiable. More applause. Every person on this aircraft, regardless of race, age, gender, religion, or any other characteristic, belongs exactly where they are. Not because of who they know or how much money they have, but because they are human beings deserving of respect. Standing ovation. That's not just Meridian Airways policy. That's the standard we should demand everywhere. In airports, hotels, restaurants, workplaces, and every space we share as Americans. Zara sits down as passengers continue clapping. Elena wipes tears from her eyes. David Miller takes notes for his next law review article. Carmen's voice comes over the intercom, professional and proud. The transformation is complete. What started as one woman's experience with discrimination has become entire industry's commitment to equality. But the most important change isn't in policies or procedures, it's in the understanding that dignity cannot be rationed, respect cannot be restricted, and belonging cannot be determined by bias. Zara Williams bought an airline to create change. Bradford Montgomery's racism gave her the platform to demand it. And millions of passengers will benefit from justice served at 30,000 feet. As Flight 847 continues toward Los Angeles, carrying passengers who travel with dignity guaranteed rather than hoped for, Zara opens her laptop and begins writing her next acquisition proposal. Because there are still industries that need transformation, still companies that tolerate discrimination, still networks that prioritize profit over human dignity. And Zara Williams has proven that sometimes the best way to change the world is to buy it one business at a time and rebuild it with justice as the foundation. Her grandmother Ruth would be proud. The building is owned, the rules are changed, and dignity is non-negotiable for everyone who enters. The plane touches down at LAX exactly on schedule. No delays, no conflicts, no discrimination. Just safe travel, with respect guaranteed. This is what victory looks like: ordinary flights where extraordinary humanity is the standard, not the exception. The video of that flight reached 50 million views across all platforms and sparked a nationwide conversation about discrimination in travel. Bradford Montgomery became a cautionary tale studied in business schools, while Zara Williams was invited to speak at the World Economic Forum about dignity in commerce. His name became synonymous with the consequences of public racism. Hers became associated with transformational leadership through crisis. Carmen Rodriguez earned her captain's wings 18 months later and now flies international routes for Meridian Airways. She keeps a photo from that day in her flight bag, not of the confrontation, but of Zara's calm face during the storm, reminding her that quiet strength can move mountains. Her sons Miguel and Diego tell their classmates that their mom flew the plane where justice happened, and they want to be pilots too. As for Zara, she continues acquiring companies not for profit, but for purpose. Meridian Airways was just the beginning. She's since purchased hotel chains, restaurant groups, and retail companies, transforming each one into a model of dignified customer service. Because sometimes the best way to change a network is to own it, and the best response to discrimination isn't anger, it's excellence that makes prejudice impossible to sustain. What do you think about this incredible story? Have you ever witnessed discrimination while traveling or in any service industry? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if this story of justice and transformation inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. For more powerful stories about standing up to injustice and creating positive change, don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss our latest videos. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message about dignity, respect, and the power of owning your worth. Thanks for watching, and remember, you never know who you're sitting next to, so treat everyone with the respect they deserve. See you in the next video.